The idea is to, I think there's some fantastic, and we saw that yesterday. I sat through some of the sessions. Rajesh moderated one, Sindhu moderated one. You could see the phenomenal stories that are emerging from GCCs. I personally believe I've been tracking this sector for more than 15 years now, and I personally can tell you, uh, I mean, it's just getting better and better. The kind of things that global CXOs today have to say about India, Indian talent, the work that is being done out of here, you just feel so proud. And Rajesh, let me start with you. You've seen this evolution. I remember from the Texas Instruments day. I don't know whether you can count Texas Instruments as a GCC or not, but then Mercedes Benz, GE. One of my first assignments in Bangalore in 2000 was GE. They were setting up this massive campus, and Jack Welch himself had come. And today that center is just, I mean, of course, GE itself has split into three companies, but the kind of work each one is doing in aerospace, in energy, in healthcare is just unbelievable. The kind of amount of patterns that is coming out of those centers. Since then, of course, a lot more have come. Give us an idea where that evolution and where do GCC stand today?
Thank you. So GCC will become very popular in the last few years, but it has a phenomenally long history. And then the history is, when you go back and look at the time frame that you're talking about when GE was around, I remember Bank of America, at that time they created a company called Continuum or something like that around the early days. You're familiar with that. And these days when there was none of these mad rush or any of that was around, and then you gradually start seeing those companies, including some of the retail ones. Target was one of the early ones who came in, Super Value, and so on and so forth. So I think the foundation was laid, in many ways, predominantly BFSI organizations. A little bit of retail and CPG you started seeing. And then you also found pharma slowly coming in, and I think there's still, in my mind, there were a few big ones who came in around that time, and then it kind of fizzled out. What happened was it became very popular at that point in time. Then suddenly, because of the maturity that we have today on GCC wasn't there then you slowly started seeing some of the BFSs especially didn't really realize all the benefits which was touted alongside we used to call them captives those days. And we didn't really have this nice name of GCC. We call them captives. And they really didn't realize the benefits of the captives at that time. So what happened was some of them started selling it back to the service providers. I won't name them because it won't be fair. I was involved in a few of them, so I should be careful. But there were lots of them, at least 4 or 5 that I know personally. They said, "Oh my God, this is not working. We shouldn't be doing this at all." And then there was a lull after they started selling it back to the service provider. Again, there was a surge of service providers buying back all of those units. And then there was a lull for about 7 or 8 years, and you never really found more GCs coming in. Then about 15 years ago, it started again. And this time around, they fixed all those issues which was there in the beginning, thinking that, we are going to go there, we're going to save 70% of the cost and that and this. That was all the rara about saying, fundamentally, can we leverage this arbitrage? Why should we be paying all the money to the service providers? Let's make it ourselves. Clearly, the ability for people to hire, retain, train, all of that, they didn't really factor into it, and hence there was a little bit of a wrong value proposition which was built. So I don't want to belabor the point, but then as you said, we went through so much of those journeys, starting from this arbitrage being the only value proposition to creating a portfolio, creating an outpost, making sure that you are a broader entity which is part of your global organizations, and then went up in the hierarchy of doing some truly meaningful work for the global corporation, all the way to of course we talk about innovation, not a very good word everybody uses, but truly being part of the revenue side of the equation than the cost side of the equation, because the GCCs, as long as you look at them as part of the revenue side, then I think there's a huge potential to it. That means that you're talking about how do you make a difference to my customer, how do you make a difference to my business, as opposed to saying that how do you reduce my cost. So that is my opinion, Sujit, the biggest benefit comes when you cross the threshold from being part of the cost equation to a revenue equation.
You want to do some crystal gazing and say which industries, that's a topic of our discussion supposed to be, but in the coming years, which industries might see the biggest momentum?
Today, clearly this, if you look at the GCCs, it's dominated by BFSI, right? Retail CPG continues to be a fairly large part of it. Pharma is not too far behind. Automotive is not too far behind. But when you look at the future, there are a couple of things which comes, again, this is the wrong time to do a crystal gazing on anything, right? So we don't even know what the hell is going to happen tomorrow. Forget about next week or next month or next year. But having said that, this is an industry where there's a potential for us to benefit either way. I'll tell you what I mean. If things are going good, then obviously everything is hunky-dory, and then there's going to be a lot more business. We're going to have more and more GCCs getting set up. When things are not so good, I think even then there is an opportunity here. I'll tell you what I mean. When there's a bit of a lag impact on this. So what happens is that when there is a real, let's take an example of a huge tariff issue, and then let's take an example of a retail industry, and it is going through a lot of cost pressures in the country of origin. Let's take the United States, for example. When that goes through, after a certain lag, which is maybe a 6 months to a 9 month, whatever the lag is, you will find that there is more appetite for people to do things of this nature. I'm not necessarily saying GCC, but truly looking for opportunities. And that point in time, it is not about innovation, etc. It will be about cost arbitrage. But combined with capabilities, combined with expertise, combined with some good stuff which is happening, and they've tasted some success in this model, then there is an appetite to renew that more and more, double down on it, ensure that they're actually able to do better. So in my mind, and I was telling Vandana earlier today about the example of Seas Candy. One of the companies there's a company called Seas Candy, the company which manufactures sweets. Warren Buffett is a big investor on that. And the reason why he invested more on Seas Candy is because he said, when people are happy, they eat Seas Candy. When they're sad, they eat Seas Candy. But there's no, so in some sense, India's GCC can be positioned as the Seas Candy of all the corporations. So when there's a problem, then you can still look at this as an opportunity for you to benefit from it.
Okay, happy or sad, they have to come to India.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Sangeeta, tell us, BFSI has been literally in some ways the pioneers of this GCC model, and you matured a lot. Tell us, where does BFSI stand, and where do you see it going in the coming years?
I think Rajesh just talked about the BFSI being sort of the daddy of the GCC industry. I should say been really there long now. There are almost 90 plus BFSI companies which are there, maybe running maybe more than close to 200 centers. So there is multiple centers that they run. So it's a fairly large pool of GCCs here, and because the industry, I think, more or less, most of them are in that 20, or the large ones at least in the 20 plus year sort of segment. In fact, at BNP, we celebrated our 20 years as well this year. So, which is, therefore, there's a lot of maturity in terms of understanding the domain, right? So, while it started with the back office and then middle office and front office, those concepts have diluted quite a bit because we have built now an end-to-end domain capability. People here understand products, understand markets, understand regulations, which is just so important in this industry because you're dealing with multitude of that. And that is built a capability where now you are doing more end-to-end stuff here, which is of course driven by domain plus also the tech capability here. Any today global project of any large banking institution, if it is getting driven, there's a large pool of transformation which is happening from India. It's getting either driven from India or contributed in a big way in India, whether it's transformation for AI, it's transformation for, operational excellence, now cyber security, regulations, whatever you name it, which are the large sort of buckets of work that the banks do. And pivoting to the customer centricity, which Rajesh talked about, how are you enabling and becoming more aligned to your customers? earlier the GCC sat like two steps away from the customer, and now they are up ahead with the customer in terms of interaction, in terms of creating customer ahas, creating that value for that. So in my mind, this momentum is there, right? While BFSI has matured in many ways, I don't think the momentum of growth is going to slow down. And today you have, of course, now the next level of banks, the not the big ones, but with the medium scale who are looking at India. And I keep saying there's a sense of FOMO, right? If you're not in India, you're really not there. So I think there's a sense of that. A lot of new GCCs, smaller ones in BFSI, and of course in many more sectors coming. It's becoming more or less industry and company agnostic in many ways. The next wave of GCCs, the smaller companies are much ready to come in. The ecosystem is helping quite significantly in that because there is this setup, because there is ability to understand that, there is handholding done by third parties, a lot of consulting firms which are able to bring and help companies cross over the challenges of setting up something. You are seeing a lot more industry which is pivoting itself here. I would say fintechs is another big driver for the GCCs. Today, the GCC ecosystem collaborates very easily with them. They are the conduits of creating that that connection between the global offices and the fintech industry in India, which of course has a large ecosystem here as well. So there are several these trends underway to sort of pull in the next wave of GCCs, and like Rajesh was very rightly saying, it's a gold rush, and I'm sure this will be.
Any large financial institution which is still not in India with a GCC?
I can't think of. We were just talking. Maybe there are some European banks which are now beginning to look at it. They are large in their countries, but not large at a global scale, and and sort of beginning to look at India. But by far, if I look at from insurance to banking to investment, smaller investment firms now, which are large. Investment companies, but not on that scale. But they've also started to pivot to India. So I think this ecosystem is itself enabling a lot of that. Today, when we look at how we are adding value beyond what is just come in, today it's no longer about work transitioning from a location into India. It's about building new products from here, new customer asks from here, new regulatory dimensions to be worked out from here. So it's no longer transitioning of work. It is sort of bringing in what the bank needs from here, and then you're able to also be less siloed in an environment like this versus our global organization. So I see that as an opportunity to create some transversal standardization across many areas, right? And we've started to work on few, which is sort of multiplying the value that a center like this can give back.
Oh, fascinating, Johnny. And the last 2 days, I also realized BFSI has a fantastic diversity story to tell as well.
Yeah, I was just talking.
Just over the last 2 days, I realized, of course, BNP, Morgan Stanley, NatWest, HSBC, Lloyds, all of them are led by women.
Here's the women power, guys.
Naveen, tell us, healthcare. I think BFSI and retail probably took the lead in setting up GCCs in India. Everybody is saying healthcare will be the next big one. You see that already happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, healthcare is a very broad area.
Healthcare, pharma.
So you have everything from innovative medicines, which includes research and development, to providers who are the doctors and hospitals, to processors who process. You have a lot of mid to back office on healthcare. And this is an enormously complex, highly important area, challenge to be solved. And I think India has very much risen to the occasion here. The capabilities in India. And I'm with Amgen now, but before this with another pharma company for 13 years. Where over time we built capabilities that have enabled the enterprise quite significantly across most of these areas. If you ask me, maybe research is one basic research that India doesn't have a lot of capabilities and hopefully will have. But otherwise, there's been significant themes that enable many pharma companies now, many innovative medicines companies. You name the top 10, I think they're all in India, leveraging the capabilities in India. And this is only also going to help the 1.5 billion people that are in India eventually, because India is also going to be a consumer of health products. And having capabilities here will serve the Indian market as well. So I think a bright, long future ahead. The case for change has never been stronger because India's strengths in technology, in data, in workforce, in culture that Sangeeta pointed out, and speed and efficiency of operations are what exactly the healthcare industry needs to serve more patients. So I see this exploding, frankly. More and more companies in this space coming and leveraging more and more functions, leveraging the strengths of Indian ecosystem, both make and buy, collaborating with various partners in this ecosystem. 20 years I've been in this industry, never seen this go beyond process excellence. Now we are in transformation space, and now we are talking about leadership, managing the enterprise and leadership and managing markets from the talent we have in India. Very, very exciting space. A broad answer to your question, what is the next wave? I think anyone else who's not been here.
Completely. Also, just I mean, India was very good in generics and all that, but I'm told with AI, Gen AI, and all that, that whole drug discovery thing also is a potentially big area for India. Do you see that already happening in some of these GCCs?
There's absolutely a lot of promise. And again, it's an ecosystem play. We have to collaborate with researchers, institutions. But look, technology is enabling a lot of research that doesn't need one to go to a lab. You can design molecules, you can test molecules, and then you can make your human process, testing process, far more efficient. So there's a lot of promise, and much like the broader narrative of India, right? So how technology is helping India from a developing to a developed country. That same storyline applies to the healthcare sector as well.
Okay, Jaideep, tell us, I mean, your industry is the most exciting in some ways for all of us. You and the movie business and all of that. Even you are now setting up GCCs in India. What kind of work are you doing now? And do you see many more companies like yours coming to India with GCCs? And what kind of work do you think going forward you'll be doing?
Sure. So before I go into the current industry, I just want to call out one of the first ones in BFSI in India where I have worked and I've seen another colleague didn't get mentioned was American Express. Started way back in 1993. That was probably the first financial service BFSI in India. Way back in 1993 when the center was being run 24/7 on 3 generators. Yeah. Because there was no electric supply. So besides the point, I felt a little emotional about the first one I worked in there.
You worked there?
Yes, I worked there. That's the reason I thought I'll bring it up on this one. So back to the current industry. I think for us, we didn't have to go through this whole transition of nomenclature shift, etc. So as we set up an office in Hyderabad, it was like any other global office present here. And the fundamental driver for us was as we've rolled out our streaming platform Max globally, we really needed to leverage the talent pool available in India, be it in terms of creating the platform, because this was a deep product engineering platform. So effectively, we've transformed more into a media tech company versus a pure play media company. And so that was the genesis of us coming into this space. Now, even though technically us as a company have been in India for 90 plus years, from a domestic market. Now, can other organizations in the sector come? Absolutely. We are already beginning to see some of those come in and look at multiple different aspects. Obviously, you've got the standard set of corporate services, which any organization is doing, but clearly in areas like post-production, which is because a lot happens between, say, a product having a raw footage till the time you actually see the final outcome on the screen. There are so many different aspects of the world, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for the talent here in India who have not been used to operating in larger corporate setups. There's a lot of smaller, like Hyderabad's known for VFX animation and gaming. However, a lot of them are smaller mom and pop shops relatively. They've worked with the Hollywood studios, but not directly. So now here's an opportunity for that workforce or that talent to directly now come and participate in the process of us creating magic. That's the way I would say. Yeah.
Okay, do you think you'll be working with some small, as a GCC, do you think you'll be working with some of these startups and all that?
I mean, absolutely. If there is an area where we feel that we need to supplement or complement our capabilities, absolutely, yes. I think there were a couple of very interesting startups we had seen in T-Hub, where simple examples like what's the ERP in a movie making space, right? No one's probably ever thought of that. So those kind of things, yeah, absolutely, yes. We would be working with some of those.
Okay. I just want to look at how does one move up the maturity ladder? What are the key elements there? Several number of companies today have reached fairly high levels of maturity, but there are many who are still trying to find the ropes, understand what they need to do. I'm sure it's very difficult. I personally sometimes tell this story. For me, my headquarters is in Delhi, to some extent Bombay. I'm sitting in Bangalore. For me to convince my bosses about technology and GCC and all of that is really tough sometimes. How do you go up the maturity ladder to be able to influence your global headquarter bosses? How do you build maturity within the sector itself, within India as a GCC? Rajesh, what?
No, I certainly, I think we should hear from the people who are experiencing it day in and day out. But broadly, when you look at, and we talked about how do you really sort of move the equation from being on the cost side to the revenue side. But more than that, I think everybody is very sensible most of the time, which also means that if you're able to demonstrate value, they see it. And I know it's easier said than done, but I think if you're able to say that, even, I mean, forget about even the GCCs, even other global corporations, and we talked about a few examples where we may not call them GCC, but they're also outposts of global corporations based in India. They have very similar challenges as well. So the way you probably demonstrate that this is no longer just a convenient cost center that you have built where you get some, at a lower price point than you're getting some, because it's an easy equation, right? The arbitrage is so good, and one secret thing which not many people talk about is not just the arbitrage, it's also the currency, which makes it extremely viable. The currency keeps moving in one direction, which is so much in favor of setting up something here, right? Which is a big thing. It's not just because if it was just the arbitrage the way it was when in 1993 when Amex came into India, by today, with the
because wage costs have gone up a lot since
exactly then. And then it doesn't go up that much in the dollar terms, it goes up much in the rupee terms, and half of it is covered by the currency. So this secret sauce is always there, so that's taken for granted. So if you're a CFO sitting in New York and then you're looking at some of this, it's a no-brainer. Okay, you continue to do whatever it is, do more of it. But the moment you get the attention of the CEO, looking at the business side and saying that, this is not just an outpost that you want to leverage from a labor and cost point of view, but this is an outpost that you want to truly leverage because of the talent, availability of the talent, expertise, and to some extent, truly integrate it with what the corporation is trying to do, and then see if there is a better value proposition to their end customers together with this entity. And that is what is the toughest part. And the leaders of India, whoever is running this post, the responsibility for them is to sort of make sure that they're able to make that case loud and clear, and then ability for them to say, not only just say, but also deliver, because it's not easy to deliver. I mean, we had a lot of discussions around, there are areas when I won't quote any of that, but there's this whole thing about window dressing, right? If you end up doing all of that, there was a lot of things written, and I won't go again. I hesitate to get into that topic, but there's a lot of chatter around saying that, oh, this is really true, because as I said, with all of this stuff that we said, there's a ground reality. You can survive for as long as you want, but if you really want to thrive and be part of the real value creation for the corporation, I think you need to move away from all of that, and then make sure that you are part of this game. And there's also notion saying that, okay, for example, one of the measures, and I'm okay with that measure, saying that the global jobs created, right? My friend Pari is very from Zinovs. I think he thinks, he loves this measurement. How many global jobs have you created in a GCC? Well, it is a good measure. I mean, it's not a bad thing to do, but that alone doesn't give you the sense of going up the value chain. I think it is important for us to understand, what are these global roles meant for? Are they leveraging the center in India as much as they should be? And most cases they do. So I don't have a problem with it. But all of this combination, how do you look at this in a little bit holistic format, and then saying that, are you really delivering this to the corporations? That will make them go up the value chain. And the future, in my mind, would be that, really making that.
You have to deliver value. And yes, you have to influence your bosses in headquarters. I'm sure that's a lot of techniques involved. Jack Welch, for instance, probably saw very early on when he set up that GE campus in 2000 itself, but I'm sure it's not as simple as that for a lot of corporations. Tell me, Sangeeta, how easy is it to influence your bosses? What do you do to influence your bosses and tell them, give more work to India, we can do it? How does it all work?
Yeah, I think, from a maturity point of view, I think 2-3 things. Of course, building trust over a longish period of time. I think the execution excellence of what the teams in the past delivered, right? If I can say, sort of has created a rightful seat at the right tables to allow for influencing to happen now, right? So I think with that execution excellence and the confidence that when you are sending work here or building a capability here, it will get delivered, I think has given a very rightful seat on the tables where you can then influence, right? So I think one is finding that seat, and I think across at least the BFSI space, I feel that's really there. And now, we are seeing the next sort of wave is global leadership rolls out of here, which I completely agree is not the only metric to really measure maturity, because sometimes there are several other nuances to this. But being able to then contribute to the transformation processes of the organization. Now, as transformation of technology and processes are happening in a banking sector, there is no way that the voice of the team here cannot or will not be needed, right? So this team's voice is required. The expertise has moved here. It's no longer, the work is not coming here because of low cost. That continues to be there, but it's coming because of the expertise of the talent pool here. So the voice of this talent pool, I think the global stakeholders now are wanting to hear. They want us to sort of be there, tell them what is required to be done. I think thirdly, the ability of the ecosystem here to see the industry trends to the customer trends as well. There is so much of data that is available to be mined for really making the front-end contributions that these centers are getting leveraged for that. So to my mind, that maturity of getting that seat and being able to influence that has happened because of what we have built. Of course, the newer GCCs have a head start. I think they don't have to go through this 20-year cycle to really be at that maturity level. They are leveraging. In fact, last year in the GCC forum itself, I was doing moderating a session with some new GCCs who are one from luxury space, completely a new industry, and one from real estate. And the real estate person was saying that now they have set up this ability to support the some New York real estate Newman company here, and now they are saying how they can monetize this with other real estate companies who don't want to set up a GCC here but can use this model, and they become sort of the drivers for that. So how are you monetizing that? So those are sort of thought processes that can drive the influence and then decision making and then revenue generation from here. So the mindset, I think, over this period of time has changed towards India, and I find that there is a huge benefit in being able to influence and then lead and
This execution excellence that Rajesh also talked about, that is key anyway. So
yeah, that's
what
table
goes into
stakes.
it?
That's
What
table
goes into
stakes.
it?
That's something that we've done well. So what goes into it is what you are asked to deliver from here. You're delivering well, without errors, in a timely basis, without data loss, without something leaking somewhere. So there is a lot of controls and processes, and which the India teams have really done well. So anything that gets sent to India is delivered much better than how it was being done in global locations. So people value that, yes, and that's a fact. So they know that things will get done better once it comes to India, and that's become table stakes now.
That's very interesting. It gets done better in India than anywhere else. You agree with that? Nandini?
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Sangeeta, for bringing it out, because I think that's really what is happening right now, right? So, the centers in India actually need to rise to the occasion and claim their space. You know how hard it is to land an MNC job in India? You have to be in the top 1 percentile. You have to go to a top school. You probably had to sweat a lot in your life, and your caliber is that high. The talent in India delivers best outcomes for the enterprise worldwide, period. Right? So let there not be any doubt, and we shouldn't be in a space where we have to prove ourselves. So for me, it's not maturity, it's business impact. I totally agree with what Rajesh is saying. And centers in India, and maybe the new ones, have advantage that you don't have a mold to break out of, because you could start a bit bolder, but you have to really drive enterprise business outcomes from here. We have all the talent. We have the 20 years track record now, capabilities as a country. And if you look at demographics and where this is going to go over the next 20 years, this is only going to multiply, right? So it's not about maturity, it's about really impact for the enterprise at that level, and that's out here.
Jaideep is itching to say something.
Come again.
I think you want to say something, right?
No, look, I don't think we have reached this stage, what she said of, we've sent it to India and we have reached it just overnight. It's been an amazing journey. Remember, initially when the work first came to India, there were no Bibles called standard operating procedures or workflows. Nothing used to exist. I think by the virtue of gap existing between where the work is getting consumed versus where the work is getting delivered, how do you bridge that gap? Were tools like these, and now they've become so institutionalized in our psyche that it's led to the point what Sangeeta was making, that now and that's fundamental table stakes now, right? You cannot, it's the way I describe it is it's the basic cake. You cannot have a cake without the basic cake. You can have all the icing, everything, but the cake has to be, and that's the basic fundamental of process excellence on it. It's taken us some time, the whole aspect of taking people through the journey of, hey, think process, think failure modes, think this, think that, etc. and all. So that's the point I wanted to make on.
It's an interesting point.
Right?
I would say, I was going to say that the role, in exactly what he just now said, the role which some of the service providers played in the beginning, companies like GE and American Express, etc., played in the early days of the GCCs, are phenomenal. The Six Sigma was a big deal those days. Lean was a big deal. So, and also understanding the process and how do they really ensure that whatever Sangeeta was talking about in terms of ensuring that there's a trust in the delivery. Service providers played a big role. I mean, they were kind of they did a BOT, build, operate, transfer models. So they brought in a lot of those processes because they couldn't do it, even when we were delivering on their own, they couldn't do it without all of those processes. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying the capabilities net in India over 20 years have delivered this. But look, our average age is 28. Many of my employees weren't there when Amex set up. They're coming in now with the fresh zeal, energy, enthusiasm, leveraging the leadership, but they can actually deliver great outcomes now. They are.
So, Amgen, what kind of business impact are you looking at to make out of the GCC here?
No, Amgen India has been set up as part of a enterprise scale exercise. This is talent at scale. So Amgen is looking to serve double the number of patients that we are serving, and the way to serve that is through scale across the functions that we leverage from India.
Jaideep, do you see the GCC here making movies and all that out of India at some point?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but definitely the rollout of our Max, as I was saying, right? We are in 77 countries, and we hope to be in over every single territory or every single geography in the world. And that's where we see our Hyderabad office playing a pivotal role of how can we accelerate that, because that's the impact from a revenue standpoint. If you were to think of it, that the faster we are able to roll out, the faster those markets are able to come on board onto our platform, and faster those subscribers can view our content. That's the way I see the impact here.
Okay. Maybe a last set of questions. Last question. Since we today have GCCs across all the industries you can possibly imagine, are there opportunities for all of them to work together? I mean, cross-industry collaborations. Are there opportunities that can then overall help the ecosystem?
So maybe, yeah, and just on that topic, right? I think when I reflect on that, indirectly, in many ways, we are sort of anyway cross-sectoral, because we exchange talent quite easily. Talent moves across these industries very easily.
I thought the domain thing is important.
But on the tech side, right, you have a lot of movement of people, because it's also tech skills and data skills, etc. So I think we see that. I would also say that our partner ecosystem is again quite cross-sectoral. So when we work with them, we are getting that cross-sectoral sort of thought processes, best practices that we can engage on. And then I would say forums like this, right, that give us a lot of cross-sector capability and thought processes. I think those are the important elements. But when I look at, can we really do something across sectors, maybe learning and training are something that stands out for me, because there is commonality of that, and we are engaged on several of those. For example, with NASSCOM Foundation, we're doing a lot of work in skilling people, in training people. I'm sure lots of us are doing similar stuff. That are areas where we can collaborate and make sure that we are, to the point that Naveen was making, that it's us for take and it will multiply. But that 1% of people in the, that we want to hire is still limiting, right? So that talent supply of what we want in scale is still not where it needs to be. So that is where we need to invest so that the supply doesn't become a restriction in the momentum that we are creating. So that is one area that I think we can focus on, trying to sort of create that. And then it can be amongst the industry itself, like say banking, and I keep thinking of that, right? There are possibilities of utilities that can get created across. Maybe all banks want to use the same thing, need the same thing, and then all of us may not do it ourselves, and maybe there is a possibility to think of industry utilities. There are a lot of forums that are already set up to try and talk here, right? So in the past days, and I'm talking about the 17, 18 years ago, if there was a market transaction, say a derivative transaction that happened between two banks, and you were trying to sort of settle that transaction, you would go to the head office there, they would go to the head office there, and then the teams here will talk, and now you are sort of short-circuiting all that, and you're able to bring that to play. So you're sort of being much more efficient. You have all BFSI segments present here. So you talk to clients here, you do that. So I'm saying there are opportunities of those that we can think of, saying, hey, create an industry utility instead of all of us doing that, and you maybe have some commonality of that. But outside of that, other sectors, I'm
okay.
I can share beyond. I'll take a slightly different ecosystem view versus a industry view. when we were coming up and thinking of opening up our office, Naveen at least would have hosted our leadership team some 3 or 4 times.
Really?
I mean, there was a time when I was wondering if Naveen's going to give me or my boss a call saying, "Hey, stop coming, man," or whatever. But the point I was making was the ecosystem is so, I would say, cooperative in towards the fact that it's a very welcoming when new GCCs are or newer offices are getting set up here. Where do you go? Right? You want to listen to the stories of what some of the others have gone through so that we don't end up making the same mistakes, right? And the ecosystem is such that everybody is really willingly wanting to share in a rightful manner. It's not as if they want to lead you to a different path, knowing very well that the first initial couple of 100 people will be hired from the same ecosystem itself. Because right on day one, you don't go to campuses. You buy talent and then you eventually go to this thing. Yeah. So that I would say it's a very strong ecosystem. And as we've stood up our office, we are now paying it back ourselves because right after this I have to go for another one who are looking to set up here. So just sharing our stories. So that's what I would say. I will take the ecosystem kind of approach on this.
And that's the role NASSCOM also plays, I think, to try and bring all of you together to kind of learn from each other.
Exactly. I was about to say that. I think
I keep saying, I mean, that has been the role NASSCOM traditionally has always played. Everybody together to kind of.
And I think it's so unique and valuable because first of all, we don't have any vested agenda, right? So the idea would be to sort of grow this in a way that everybody benefits at the end of the day. And there's a cross-sectoral collaboration, as Sangeeta was talking about, is very important because there's a lot of things that you could learn. I mean, things like transfer pricing, and if you want to take it up, it becomes, so from a corporate function point of view, setting it up and running it, dealing with labor ministry, labor department and so on and so forth, I think there's so much that you could do together as a community of GCC, number one. Then within an industry, I also believe that there's so much of opportunity for people to come together, and then I can give you an example of how the BFSI team have come together to sort of go and teach the banking fundamentals to, let's say, investment banking, for example, or corporate banking. So to the 6th semester in a university, and fully knowing that tool is available for everybody in the ecosystem to hire. So those kind of things that you could work across the board, and you could same thing with other industries as well, right? So you could create those opportunities, which is more industry specific than company specific.
Yeah, I would say that the ecosystem has been phenomenal actually in helping grow capabilities from here, build and grow. And as far as functional collaboration specifically, I think that will also happen, but it will take time as more and more ownership. We need people with decision-making ability here. Because right now you can collaborate and create a case, but then it falls then into an integrated enterprise at the HQ for these things to get signed off. But I think as those roles move, you'll see a lot more of collaboration with tech partners, upstream, downstream. You can take decisions and make things happen faster. Yeah. And because most of these companies are moving a lot of headcount here, this is going to happen for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly the kind of example that I asked them about, but the other day, the Mercedes-Benz global CIO was in Bangalore, and I saw her. She was visiting the SAP campus next door because SAP is a big partner of theirs. She was visiting Microsoft, which was just a few kilometers away because, again, Microsoft is a big partner of theirs. She was visiting Infosys, again, a huge partner. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was also visiting Continental, which probably provides parts to, Mercedes-Benz, and Continental has a huge facility in India, GCC in India. So those kind of great stories are, I think, beginning to emerge. And fantastic discussion. This is exactly the kind of maturity that the Indian GCC ecosystem is today seeing. The point that Sangeeta made about talent. Of course, talent is the one key thing that brings everybody here. I just heard one concerning thing the other day from the HR head of one of the largest IT services companies that I think part of their problem is that all these GCCs are paying so much more money to those employees in IT services companies that they are rushing all the good talent is all coming to their companies. But apart from that, HR had also said this, that the quality of the talent that they're getting from campuses today is actually deteriorating. It wasn't just the COVID batches were particularly was an issue. But even otherwise, there's a steady deterioration in our talent quality at the fresher level. Now, it's one person saying that. I don't know whether it's some more general experience, but talent is the one thing that brings everybody here. And I think probably that's an area where all of us need to do more in. And GCCs can, of course, play a big role in trying to upgrade syllabuses, syllabi, and research. All of those are areas where, and these are MNCs with huge tons of money. So hopefully they can partner with educational institutions and improve our entire ecosystem. So thanks a lot for a great discussion. Happy or sad, I think this is an ecosystem that's going to grow.
The character we had.
Great story for India.